Join them for an evening of mystical talks, world predictions, and spirit messages as we enter the Seance Room.
Well, hi guys, it's me and Phil today. We're just doing a test run on a new show we're doing, which is going to be called the Seance Room, and we're all going to be sat around this table. And I've got some of our friends from the old circle coming to join us, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes, sorry.
It's not fair.
I said you want to take Giddy as you haven't given me no tea. Well, one cuppy Giddy earlier on.
So we've got my friend Phil with me, and we're just going to have a chat about a few. We're just doing a test. This is just a test, guys.
Just a test.
So you might get a few mistakes. We've got Joyce just saying hello, Jane and Craig. So you're going to be Jane for the minute.
Oh, thank you very much, Joyce.
So I've got Phil with me today. We're just having a chat.
No, but if you call me Jane,
yeah,
I'm fine with
just
that.
testing it out. This is just a test system. Tiny bit muffled, Craig. Okay, is that just my voice, Jules, that's making the muffle, or can it from both? Because it might be when my laptop is in the way of the microphone. Can you look, Jules, and just tell me if that sounds better? We're going to get rid of this laptop, hopefully, eventually. Yes, so you can hear me better. Great, thanks. That's exactly what we want. Thanks. And yeah, so we're just testing. We've got some Bianca out there who's helping us do the controls. So we've got learning the controls, learning all what we do. Me and Phil are going to have a chat about the circle and things like that. But we'll keep asking you, if you spot anything that sounds wrong, if you can hear echo, what do the cars sound like? Because we muffled all the windows today. Hopefully you'll be able to sort of help us to pick up any problems. Daryl's saying, evening, Craig.
Daryl,
not
Daryl.
Not our Daryl.
No,
it's
that's
Daryl.
Alan.
Rosemary's just saying hi, Craig.
Yeah.
And this is Phil. So say hi, Phil, too.
Hi, Daryl.
Hello, says Jules. Yeah. So these are people coming in mainly from Facebook. So thanks for helping us just to test it today. We're going to go live on Wednesday. So watch out for the full show on Wednesday. And we'll have on the table here, we'll also have some other members from my original circle, because me and Phil worked for years, didn't we, in the same circle and things. So we'll have a chat.
Yeah, we've had a lot of experience.
You can ask some questions. So what are we going to chat about?
Well, you spoke to me earlier on. You mentioned psychometry was something there was unanswered questions about, and I think it's a quite interesting subject.
I think psychometry is a fascinating thing. Actually.
Very fascinating.
And in fact, it's one of the first things we ever sort of did in circle, really, wasn't it?
You kind of, because you'd learned in a circle before, and all those years ago, and then you kind of taught us the way you learned.
Yeah.
Bit by bit.
Yeah, so I was taught by Peter Close. So he was a policeman, and he was kind of always pushing us to get evidence. And he would teach. We had to go to London to do it, and he would teach us each week how to develop our psychic skills. So we all started from an absolute basic scratch. So he teaches us, and which is what I teach in the circle, as you know. But people listening in, you learn about what we're going to teach. Taught me first of all how to open the chakras, the centres. So we'll do it the same old way, although I would have modified it nowadays. But we'll perhaps do that so people can understand that. It's just Joyce is saying hello, Phil. It's quick to respond. I'm sorry.
Hi, Joyce.
So we're just doing a test, those that have just come in, because we're just testing that. But me and Phil are having a chat about what we're going to be doing on the circle later on. And then obviously we learn psychometry to really get people started. You do the psychometry, then you can start getting people to tune into auras, and then you can start people to connect with spirit. But the psychometry is the absolute bedrock of it.
Yeah, and we used to bring stuff in, didn't we?
Yeah.
You know, and then we'd offer it to the circle, whatever it was, and then each person would hold it.
Yes, it.
And then try to
And the
put
thing is,
something
we
up.
don't know what's in the bag.
No, we don't know who it belongs to.
That's it.
even. And it was all like mixed in together.
Yeah.
And then you
So
pull
I'd put the
something
hand
out.
in the bag and
Yeah.
I'd pull out something. It'd be somebody, quite often rings and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And I'd hold it up and say, okay, nobody knows whose this ring is. Okay, so I would probably would know, wouldn't I? Because I wouldn't have to. I can't remember how we did it. So I would.
No, we did.
Yes,
it
I would.
so-
I would have known.
Yeah, you
So-
knew, but he was
because-
teaching us.
Yeah, because I'd have to say, oh,
Yeah.
I know that's Christine's ring, but you know.
Yeah.
So there'd be other things in there that you would put in that I wouldn't know, often from people who weren't round the table.
Yeah.
So these were psychometries for people that weren't present.
Do you think that would work Wednesday?
Well, some of the patrons become a patron, join as a patron now. Some of the patrons have sent psychometries in, but I think it would be nice to save that one for a little bit later. We
Yeah.
do our own
It's really
psychometries.
fascinating, the old subject.
Yeah.
Psychometry, I mean, I think the issue is we learn it, like, you know.
Well, actually,
and,
people won't know what it is, will they? We better
yeah,
describe
but-
what it is first. And
you know, like you learned it, somebody taught that person that you learned it from, and then
he
somebody
learned it
taught
from
that.
Ivy Northridge,
Yeah.
who's another well-known
But
medium.
nobody ever questions, what is that? You know, what is that?
That's what I find interesting.
What can you read, like
An
what
object,
I put
yeah.
in there, and what else does that relate to? Does it relate to Stonehenge, for instance?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I
What
know
I-
that,
what
that sounds
I-
far out.
What
doesn't it?
are you reading?
Yeah.
Because the idea is that the spiritualist way of describing it would
Yeah.
be to say there's a vibration on this object, and we read that vibration. So all we can read from a psychometry, according to spiritualism, and if I kept in particularly, is that on that object you can only read the vibrations that were left at the time.
Is it vibration? So
Well, this is the question.
I mean, if it's
Yeah, we
something,
talk-
there's a vibration, and then it's gone. But the stuff in the ring, it stays.
Yeah, that's the
I
thing.
mean, that was 300 years old, what we done in that BBC programme, and
Yeah.
we all picked up something from it.
Exactly. Well, but the traditional explanation is that the vibration is left on the ring, and we can only read the vibration of the characters of the people that previously had that ring. So therefore, you can't do a spirit communication from that vibration because it's the vibrations that were left. It's not anything live, okay? And you can't. All you can do is read the character of the people that owned the object. Now that works.
And what
Up
they
to-
did, their history.
Yeah, and their lives
Yeah,
and things like
yeah.
that. That works up to a point, except I've noticed when we've done it, and I think this is where you're coming from, Phil, isn't it? Is it picks up more than that, doesn't it? Sometimes.
I think that it's like, what do you call it? You put your finger into something, and suddenly you see the whole of everything, past, present, future. It's something like that. I remember we used to talk a lot on our Saturday walks, and we would talk about those kind of things. And what was it? You come up with a phrase, and it was the like a library of knowledge, and that you can
Akashic record.
wherever you turn your radar to, like you said, you can't. And I always thought in that dimension, if you wanted to, it depends on you, your belief. If I say I'm going to speak to the spirit of that person, I know that I've ever done it, but I get the idea that what I believe is what's going to be true in the spiritual dimension. And don't you go?
I think
along with
another
that?
thing. I think a thing is that whatever you focus your attention on grows in strength. That's another
Yeah.
powerful one, isn't
Yeah.
it? A Buddha
Yeah.
thing, I think, said that originally.
Did he?
Someone did.
Who's he?
Yeah, some guy.
Who's a Buddha?
Some guy. So whatever we focus our attention. So when we do our psychometry and things, we focus on something. And when we kind of didn't we in our circles before, we went back centuries with it. When you start, I remember I bringing in things such as prehistoric things. I brought some Stone Age tools in that
done something with Stone Age, didn't you, one time? Or was it
also the objects,
Avery Circle or something?
Yeah, Avery Ring. We
Avery
went
Ring,
to, and things like that. Because not only can something that's been owned by someone retain the vibration, but also something that's been there for centuries and centuries. It don't go away, that vibration, does it?
No.
It makes you wonder that how much vibration is held.
300 years old that ring was, wasn't it? You remember we done the BBC Speaking to the Dead?
And which one did we do on that?
Oh, there was something we had, and it was...
This was in Athelston House?
Yeah. I don't know if it was... Now I say ring, neither. It might have been something else, but it belonged to somebody, and it was like 1700 or something.
That's right. They were giving us all sorts of really ancient stuff, weren't they? And I did some before for a BBC programme in which they I went to a museum, and the museum curator, the museum creator was handing me all sorts of unusual stuff, like religious items. So I didn't know what they were, because you wouldn't know it was a religious item at all. And picking up on the vibrations of those things.
Yeah.
So you can use anything. But in terms of doing it for teaching people psychic development, we're getting some interesting comments coming up. Energy dies, we just had. I saw there was. I'm a bit low. We'll have to adjust my camera a little bit next time. I think that's a good idea. I've shrunk a bit because I've lost weight.
Yeah. He's lost weight. He's doing that.
Intermittent fasting.
Very good. Very good.
But we got. Sorry, my vanity has lost me.
Let's talk about ourselves then, Sean.
Yeah, we could talk about how good we are. Nice blokes.
Yeah, that's cool.
We could teach the world a few things.
Yeah, we could teach the world. Put the world to rights.
Anyway, psychometry is going to definitely be one of the main topics we have to do. Yeah. And we're going to have Darren here, and some of you saw Darren before when he came and was talking about his experiences a few weeks ago. And we're going to have Christine's going to be joining us. She was a long time member of the circle as well. And she got her mediumship's really developed a lot.
Yeah, Christine.
So I thought,
Darren, both of them.
Yeah. So we'll work between ourselves.
Yeah.
And we'll do sort of psychometries and things like that. And we can, anybody that's a patron, if you've got time, if you live local, have a look on the website. Drop me an email. We won't have time for this Wednesday. But if you send me in something that you know you don't need again, that we don't have to return, critical, we could use some of those things for psychometry sometimes too. Something metal if possible, something like an old eyelet off a key ring is quite a good one, because that's picking your vibration up, and we can pick up on people that are watching us live. So
diamond rings are okay.
Yeah, we'll keep them though. We'll keep them. That's the important bit. None of this sending them back. No. In fact, that used
That's good karma, by the way. If you want to donate that to us, our Saturday night piss-ups.
that did become a problem. I remember we had guests sometimes, and they come from overseas. We had an American guest, I think, one day, and she'd come down from London. She'd left this diamond ring with us. Oh God, it must have been worth about £30,000, and I'm panicking, thinking, send it. So if you send anything in via my website, and you can send it through the contact form, open particularly to the patrons to get priority, but send it in, and we can use those things, put them in an envelope, put your name, and you need to be online, so you can definitely will be watching every session. Then we know you're there. Then we'll read those items too, and you can say if we're getting it right or wrong or whatever, and we can give. So part of what we're kind of trying to do is really teaching you how to tune in, teaching you how to connect to the spirit world, and right the way through, like we did before.
Yeah. Do you remember we had a talk about that as well? Sorry, am I changing?
No, you don't.
I'm bringing it back to the psychometry, and I remember some of our discussions we had, because we were proper philosophers when we were out talking, and we kind of challenge things, didn't we? We speak, and but I'll say something, you'll say something, and then something good comes from it, I remember learning about what the Tibetans do, where they create what they call tulpas, and I related that to the ring, and there was an experiment carried out in America by I don't know if it was Stanford or one of those famous universities, but a group of students, they created a circle type situation and they made one seat empty.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And
yeah.
And what they did,
I think I do. Go on. Yeah.
They would come in every day, maybe. I don't remember the exact details of the experiment, but they would focus on that empty chair, and then eventually something started happening. There was phenomena beginning to happen, and this experiment was there was one called the Philip experiment.
Yeah, that's
called
Canadian.
The Humphrey experiment.
Yeah.
And then if you think about other things now, like Tibetan tulpas, where a Tibetan would create a spirit, like a kind of a minder spirit, or a spirit that made good things happen for that person, and so they would develop those spirits or guides or whatever you want to call them. And then of course there was the occult practice of bringing up demons from down below, like Aleister Crowley. And I think that psychometry, that energy that goes into those rings and those things that we own,
is similar.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, that's what we concluded.
What
really,
is that?
Yeah,
consciousness. Some form of consciousness. It must be all around us. We must be drawing it in. Because if you remember, right, some of those guys meditating in the caves in Tibetan places, they would achieve enlightenment in a cave, and then another Tibetan monk would meditate in that cave, and the process or the path to enlightenment would be much more quicker, much more shorter, because they would sit in those caves, meditate and become enlightened.
Yeah, well, I found this when I went to India, of course. You know, I went to some of those caves that were described in Yogananda's books and things about where Babaji materialised and things, and one where Jesus is supposed to have gone in India and meditated, and there's an energy there. So it makes me think that like with this, going back to the psychometry thing you're saying, Phil, which I think is a great thought, is that consciousness has a sort of a mass, that it has quantity to it, and it can kind of rub off and maybe even create a new being out of that consciousness. It infuses itself in the walls, like here, this place now, this we were saying earlier when we were sat around just getting prepared, weren't we? It's starting to build an energy now, isn't it? It's starting to build a sort of a little bit of an energy to it, and when we do that, it becomes a very powerful place to develop spiritually if people are going to sit here with us. And it will also become even more powerful because we've got all these guys watching us now from Facebook at the moment and one of the YouTube channels, and it means that we can start to build the energy here for spiritual development. And like you're kind of saying, it's a bit like the Tibetan Tulpa things, isn't it? It builds an actual quality to it. It's like, I think consciousness must have a certain, what I would call mass or weight to it. It's like, I have more consciousness than an ant. I can't be 100% certain of that.
Yeah.
But therefore, there must be something that, assuming that it's not, because scientists will say, oh, it's all just a byproduct of a brain working, which we know it's not once we prove life after death. But that consciousness itself must have a certain heaviness to it, qualities, and maybe some of that can be transferred into like an object, like you were saying, or even into an individual tulpa, like, animated being, or even a demon.
Maybe it's a question of concentration or measurement of it, because I think consciousness is really what they call God. Like, for instance, you'll come across religions, and they always, like in spiritualism, and it relates to the Tibetan caves and the enlightened, the people that get enlightened in specific caves, and where, like for instance, Jane, if you go to your place, Jane got her own special little room, and she keeps her room purified. Yeah. And so the energy has been built up in it, and I've actually walked in that room and you can feel it. The same as a church. If you go into a church, I know not all people who are Christians and who have been in those churches, gone to those churches over all those thousands of years in some cases in England, I know they're not all close to God, but yet the fact that they sat in those places and they believed they were speaking to some divine entity creates something in there. It could be that the divine entity of God is there. And I think the ant, we spoke about the ant. Well, the ant is God, isn't it?
I suppose I'm talking
consciousness. Consciousness and God.
Yeah, this is where we start getting really deep stuff again.
Where do you draw the line? Because, what happened is a person finds enlightenment and they find enlightenment in nothingness, right? And then suddenly they come out of the enlightenment, out of the nothingness, and they questioned. They start conceptualizing.
Yeah.
And I became conscious, universal conscious.
Yeah.
Or I became God. Or I became God realized.
Well, I think that's going kind of off on, which is great.
I think it's
topic.
the same as consciousness. Personally.
Yeah, I don't know whether all definitions, isn't it? What is consciousness? What is pure consciousness? Ultimate existence. What is self-consciousness with a capital S and self-conscious with a small s, as it were? Consciousness of the absolute and consciousness of our own individual beings. But I think, bringing it back to the psychometry thing, I might be interested to see if anybody's got any questions now. We can test out the questioning system here on there, can't we? So thanks for joining us, guys. If you just come online with us, we are trying to practicing, just doing a test run to see that we can get the whole system working here. I've got my friend Phil with me here, who sat in my circle for many, many years. We ran it for God knows how long, Phil. About 15 years.
15 years.
It was running, and it was longer than 15 years ago it was going. We had some amazing phenomena happen in the circle, and we started off with psychometry. So have you got any questions? Anybody got any interesting questions that we just to set about what happened in our circle, perhaps? Any thoughts about what you'd like to see on this show? Would you like to join in? Would you like to send stuff to us? Do you think it could work? What's your thoughts? Do you like the idea, or do you think this is something that's not right for the channel? It's actually going to be on the secondary channel that we've set up. We're going to be running this as a pilot for a while on a secondary channel, which is called just for the Hamilton Parker Foundation. But I'll put a description on the YouTube version. Well, I can't put it on the YouTube version. I will be putting it on the main channel, to a little advert for it, so that you can find the channel properly. So yes, so I see Bianca. Going to click up. So I see Caroline likes it. Yeah, see, I can see the questions coming in. Any questions, guys? Any questions about what we've been talking about? The idea of can an object, what does it hold? When we look at psychometry, what is it that we're picking up on?
Yeah, I think because it touches on so many things, that psychometry, that's probably why whoever began spiritualism probably knew much more than what we realise. And
I think spiritualism only scratched the surface, actually.
Because you've got to question it, haven't you?
We've got Derek Moore. I know Derek. Hi, Derek. Thanks for joining us. Anyone wants a llama? He's the man. Do you think using your consciousness you can change your future outcome? So we're going from a different topic here, but still, can we change the future? I think Derek's asking.
Your future?
Well, our personal futures.
Yeah, I think so.
If we couldn't, we have to at least have the illusion that we change our future. Because otherwise there's no such thing as free will, and we would not function without free will. Well, we just we walk across the road without thinking.
This myself as well, and I don't know if we've ever talked about it, you and I, but I pondered it, and do you know, right, I think we've got a set, for instance, our life is already set, we're going to start there and we're going to die at this point, and I'm given like 2034 when I'm going to snuff out, but I think if I can change something inside me, then I can prolong my future, my life. And I think that what kills us is our instinctive nature. So we are all got a primary trait that branches from our instinctive nature, right? Primary trait. Like my personality is my primary traits, and it stems from my instinctiveness. But if I can change, so it creates certain habits within me, a pattern of habits that I repeat over and over again. Like, for instance, if I'm an addicted personality, right, then I'm going to be a person who's going to take the bad choice there, perhaps a good choice there. And I'm always going to repeat that, and eventually that's going to break my health down.
I think there's more to it. Actually,
yeah, there's more to it.
There's more. I think there's interesting. I think there's also the other factor I really has changed my mind a lot, because of all my interest in the nadis and things, is that our karma, however we define that, mind you, what we brought forward from the past, will have a very strong effect upon changing, of determining the time of our death. And that karma is usually written in the stars. I think the astrology reveals that karma. And partly, it's our behaviour is partly determined by what we brought with us already, previous traits that we've had. So we messed up once, we might mess up again in this life in the same way. And that karma can actually be influenced and changed by a number of things. Doing all our spiritual work, whether it be meditation or mediumship or whatever, has an effect, and I think can be a very positive thing on the karma. I think also anything we do that's a good action that helps other people has a positive effect on our karma and can lengthen our lives. And of course, new habits that we develop and behaviours that we develop, such as keeping fit, is also going to have a positive effect. But for example, one of my friends died a few years ago. He was a real keep fit fanatic. He looked really 20 years younger than me and was the same age. No, not talking about you.
I died a couple of years ago too.
But my friend died. He just dropped dead.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, he'd done everything health-wise, but perhaps there's also the need to have other factors involved, which is our karmic influence. And we need to work on all of those things if we're going to extend our lives.
I personally, right, I think that karma, right.
Someone just commented, actually, Phil, on your thing. Yes, but if someone said you die in 2024 and you believe it, would you make it happen?
I think you can,
Yeah.
But if you're aware that you can make it happen yourself, then you're less likely. You know the potential of that belief can, in fact, if your knowledge is expanded and that you know that belief can do it, then you don't encounter it inside yourself. You don't hold on to it as a belief, but it's just something you come by and then you let it go.
Here's a thought for you.
This inner attitude.
Because I know we've talked a lot.
Yeah. Once you know, what I try to say is, once you know that it's my belief that can kill me, then because you know that belief can kill you, it doesn't become a belief anymore. But for me, it's actually sitting and waiting. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't care.
But you and me have talked a lot over our years, haven't we, about placebo effects and how we can make ourselves live and we can make ourselves die and we can do all sorts. And I was thinking, what is that belief in some respect? In a way, it's unconscious willpower.
Yeah.
Because most of what in our life, we have the power. I mean, sometimes you can really sort of like say, I trust in the universe and it will happen, and it does, because you've got such a positive, awakened way of dealing with your attention that you do bring the good things into your life. But simultaneously, just like we have a subconscious mind, we have an unconscious will.
Yeah.
It's the no you can't will. I don't believe this will.
Where does it come from?
Well, this is, I would call it unconscious attention.
I call it fear of death.
Very much linked with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't think that sums it up entirely.
No, and fear of death is where all the instincts come from, because the instincts are all little men put inside of you to avoid death. And so that's why I say your karma today will be the same karma you had in your last lifetime, and it all relates to fear of death and instincts. You will act this way, and this way, and comfort. So, we're all pleasure seekers, and pleasure seeking is all part of instincts, because we run away from pain and we try to experience pleasure. So that's instinct related. and that is karma as well, because we keep repeating the same things in this life. We try to do it a little bit better. We try to avoid fear a little bit. We become a bit more aware of our fear, and we do it a little bit better this time around. Maybe we may mess up even.
Yeah, and that's
so
why I think
karma,
these things perhaps come over multiple lives.
Yeah.
But great stuff, great talk. I think Derek sort of sent us off in a completely new direction from That's great. This is what we're trying. So I think we've tested it enough, guys, now just to have us try a bit. Now I'd like to say thanks to you guys for just bearing with us and listening to me and Phil, who get quite deep sometimes with what we have to say.
Remember that time I went into a trance? And it was on the BBC, right? And I went into a trance I think I'm taken over, yeah. And then I come back and I'm like, Remember the BBC doing that?
The BBC gave us a hard time, didn't they? Yeah. We did all that work.
I'd done some great stuff on his show, right? Yeah. And the only thing they could come up with was, I saw a lamb.
Yeah.
I saw a sheep.
You saw a sheep. And that's the only bit they showed of all the stuff we did. Hours of thing and all they had.
And the
Phil's
BBC
Welsh. He's got a Welsh and he says sheep. So it sounds like you're a blithering idiot.
Because I got a Welsh accent. I moved to England, right, years ago, and the first thing somebody said to me, where do you come from then? I said, I come from Wales. And the guy said, yeah, we're the men and the sheep get scared, right? Do I need to say any more?
And the whole thing, really. Yeah. I mean, I remember on my stuff, they cut out all the evidential mediumship I gave. Yeah. I gave some incredible mediumship on that show. Incredible bloody mediumship with first names, addresses, all sorts of facts that were incredible. I mean, I say so myself, but they were. And I was thinking, that was the last it's going to be shown. And what did they show? They show the one little bit where I say, I was joking around at the end. I said, come to the lady at the back with the black aura, right? Yeah. That's the only bit they showed. Buggers, what I think. Sorry, but what a thing to do. Anyway, we better finish it there. We'll so I hope you guys. Thanks, Derek, for your question. I think letting go is one of the most positive actions we can take in our life, and that's humour as well. I think, isn't it? The master word. But we're going to say goodbye to you now, and we're going to hopefully get the trailer at the end working as well. So thanks for joining us.
Buenas noches.
See you soon. Bye for now.
But I just feel she's in a better place.
I agree.
Better place. And so one has to feel, my darling, your wishes come true.
And he's given me the feeling that at the end, there's something I put into the coffin with him, he's saying here, something that was very emotionally significant to you. And you wrote something that was poetic with it, because I feel as if I put something poetic. It's only a stanza of a verse. It's about 4 lines.
Oh, that's true. Both these people, everything they said about the stuff they talked about, they were accurate. They are the real deal, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. I'm not a mind blower, by nature, but it was real, and all crap aside, it was real.
Fascinating. Remember, our psychic mediums have never met the people in these circles and know nothing about them. While the crew sets up for Craig's seance, let's see what the participants of Jane's seance thought of what just happened.
Well, I suppose I wasn't really quite sure what to expect when I came. It was different.
It was interesting to me to find out that Diana came across so strongly as knowing what I was doing. And that came across very clearly in what she said to me. And that she was there and that she knew the work I was doing. That was quite powerful for me. Even the one who calls himself a cynic was very much part of it.
I found it terribly hard to relate the Diana I knew to being a spirit. And I used to see her regularly, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes twice a day. And I'm a shocking cynic, but I did feel something during that. And there were 1 or 2 things that came out which only Diana and I perhaps knew. So perhaps I'm not quite so cynical.
Another remarkable séance. I wonder if the people at Craig's séance will be as convinced and enthusiastic as those who sat at Jane's. Let's find out.
It was very interesting, though, and it was very nice to see how everybody else was going, hey, yeah, wow. That was kind of cool that happened, too, because nobody had any idea who was who and what was what, so there was nothing set up, and we knew nothing that was going to happen next. So.
I found it fascinating.
Certainly the questions that were being put to us, or the comments that were made to us. If your memory was 100%, you could remember every one of those occasions that he spoke about, you know, right down to the nitty-gritty in the kitchens with the children. It all made sense, you know.
And the pear drops were definitely something. I mean, we used to buy them specially and have them in the office so that she could have them whenever she wanted them. And it was always, don't tell anybody, I'm not supposed to have these, you know. So that was fantastic. It actually blew my mind.
There was a contact there on everything he said.